when I was probably it was right before Corona actually happened that my dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and well, he had been diagnosed with it. I guess his health really started becoming affected by it about then. And he and I were really close. We used to play golf together all the time, and he just got to where he couldn't do anything physical anymore. You know, all of his he couldn't play golf. He couldn't walk a whole lot. And so he wanted to write his memoirs. And we kind of started sitting down together a few days a week and just writing that stuff out. And he lived this crazy life. He was a Native American and on one side an Appalachian hillbilly on the other side. And they lived like the boxcar children. He lived in the middle of nowhere with dirt floors and peach crate cabinets and no running water. And he had an outhouse and no electricity and like a one bed for 6 or 7 kids. And this wasn't like in the Great Depression. This was like in the 1960s.
Wow.
And so it was this really crazy juxtaposition between like the modern world and like the old Wild West. That's where he lived, was like out in the Wild West. That really kind of inspired the vibe of Bette Donovan. And so during that time, we sat down together. We watched a lot of his old favorite movies. He was a huge John Wayne lover, and we watched a ton of old Westerns. And I was not that big of a John Wayne lover, so we watched a bunch of new Westerns. And kind of somewhere along the way, this story just kind of started to develop, and we kind of had this. I just kind of had this idea where I wanted to kind of marry several things that I thought that were really neat concepts. I loved the imagery of like the Japanese samurai, and I loved the imagery of the Wild West. And it's kind of like a steampunk version of the Wild West, with a lady samurai cowgirl lead, and and so the thing that idea just kind of took on its own kind of thing, and just kind of grew from there. And when I got finished writing that, I had no idea what I was doing. I had never done anything in fiction before. I had no idea how to publish anything. I had no idea. I didn't know what a beta reader was or what an ARC reader was. And I'm like Googling, how do you publish a book? And I gave this story to one of my friends, and he read it, and his grandmother had been a professional editor in the 90s for the Dallas Writers Club. And so he sent it to her. She emailed me and said, hey, if you're interested, I would love to just edit this for you. I think this is a great story. I think this needs to be published. And she said, I'll edit this for you. And so we took off on this 6-month-long journey of hanging out together and editing this story. She did a full developmental edit and a line edit. When we got done, I was like, what now? That's great, but what now? And so she kind of helped me put together a query package. I had sent out like, I don't know, 5 or 8 queries, nothing, none essentially. And while I was we were going to wait till those came back, and then we were going to tweak it and send some more out. But while we were kind of doing that, and I'm researching and learning about this whole world of publishing, I realized how long all of that took. And my dad's health in the meantime, and also my grandmother's health was really failing. And I knew that if they wanted to see this book be published, that I was not going to be able to traditionally publish it. And so my editor, Lou Mercier, she said, you should just indie publish this. She was like, this would be a great learning experience for you. And so she had helped some people do that before, and she totally helped me and walked me through the process of publishing it. And I did that so that my dad and my grandmother could see that lifelong dream kind of come to fruition. Mm. And then I was like, well, what now? And because I still didn't know anything. I published it. I didn't tell a soul that I wrote a book. Nobody knew about it. Mm. I published that in June of 2024, and did not tell anybody about it until August of 2025. and just because I just didn't know what to do. In the meantime, I was still writing. I was writing the Facts of Life series. I had written a couple of other things. I wrote a fantasy series at the same time. And so I had a lot of projects that I was working on, but I just didn't really know what to do as far as how to bring them to market. In August, I was sort of lamenting to one of my children about this whole thing. I was like, if you don't know what the question is to ask, then how do you know what to ask? Kind of a thing. And so my 15-year-old at the time, he said, Mom, you need a writing community. And I was like, what is that? And he said, give me your phone. And so he downloaded Discord on my phone, put me on all these writer Discord groups. He switched he kind of played with my Twitter and switched the algorithm over to writing Twitter. And I started meeting some people, and I started getting involved in a couple of different writer groups, and I had resources all of a sudden and people to be able to ask questions. You know, how do you bookmark it? How do you do this or that? And that's really kind of that was really where my big indie journey, I guess, began, was truly in August of last year. The indie community's just been phenomenal. Everybody's been so wonderful and welcoming and nice. I've made so many incredible friends, and they don't ever hesitate to tell me, you know, like, this is what you should be doing, or don't do that. Or if I ask a question, they answer it. If I need something to be, you know, a set of eyes on something, they do it. It's just been such a wonderful thing to be able to have a group of people that you feel like you're just kind of holding hands with them, and you're all walking together on this journey. That's been the biggest game changer for me, really, has been just the indie community and being able to plug into that. And that really started, you know, in August of last year. And so here we are.
Yeah.